Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm sorry. I know many of you have listened to me over and over the past couple of weeks as you've attended many of our virtual events. I hope you found them informative and helpful, and maybe some of them fun and interesting. I'm not going to go on too long about the admissions end of thing or any other sort of school general questions. I will hang on at the end if you have any. But I am going to turn this over now to our faculty who are with us today to share with you departmental information and general overview of the Department of Epidemiology of Microbial Diseases. And so I'll open it up to them. They can introduce themselves. I'm not sure exactly who all's on this call, and hopefully do an overview and then share questions or allow for questions at the end. So go ahead, Sarap and Kaveh. It's all yours. I'll stop sharing my screen as soon as I can.
Thank you so much, Mary. Hello, everyone. I'm Kaveh Khushnud. I'm faculty member at EMD, and I'm also the chair of the admission committee for our school. I'm delighted to see a number of you. I've had the chance to look at your applications, but being able to see you in person is nice. And I'm very pleased to see quite a few of our faculty who made it to this session. We're gonna be trying to make this as interactive as possible, so be able to answer your questions. We are going to give you a bit of an overview about our department. Again, we have a number of faculty who've joined us today. They will introduce themselves and we give a brief overview about our department, the curriculum, etc. So let me pass it over to the chair, the acting chair for our department, Dr. Sarap Aksoy, and then we'll go from there. Sarap?
Thank you, Kaveh, and hello, everyone. I'm really delighted to see so many of you were able to join us and you're interested and want to know what we do. And we will surely be telling you as much information as you want. So welcome, and we have a large number of our faculty also joining us today, and they can provide you information on their own research as well as on our teaching programs. So we tend to be a relatively small school of public health and a small epidemiology department. However, we have 20 professors, 12 research scientists. We have also a large number of secondary professors that come from different departments of Yale Medical School, as well as Yale different college departments. 18 PhD students, 65 MPH students, and we're looking forward to having more like yourselves. We have a very interdisciplinary training program. We have a large CDC emerging infections program, and Linda, I'm sure, would be delighted to tell us more. HIV, TB, malaria, vector-borne diseases represent our strengths. We also have a very prospering modeling program, modeling of disease transmission, infectious diseases. The other unique aspect of our program is the fact that so many of our faculty work on global infectious diseases and have training programs as well as research programs in different parts of the globe. And these research programs and their training sites are an excellent opportunity for our students to get involved in for their either theses or internship programs. And I see that many of our faculty who have these programs are also here. So without any delay, I will probably turn it back to Kaveh and see if he wants to run the show today. So,
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. So I think we're just going to go through and each of the faculty introduce themselves. And Sarap, if you don't mind, I'm just going to start with you, and I'm just going to go through my screen. So just briefly, if you can talk about your own research interest, if you teach any classes, any COVID-related projects I think students are interested to know, and any student opportunities, any students that are working with you on any of your projects, that would be great. Just a few minutes.
Yes, I would be delighted to. So I am what is a hybrid between parasitology and entomology. So it's vector biology. The disease that I work on is called African trypanosomiasis. It's a parasitic disease that's transmitted by a fly, tsetse fly, that inhabits the African continent. So in my research, I work on both the epidemiology, the transmission biology of this vector-borne disease, and try to develop solutions that are based on biological methods. We have large training programs in Kenya and Uganda, as well as research programs. So in the past, a large number of students have participated in our research at Yale, as well as worked with our collaborators in Africa. So together with Brian Wise, my collaborator and colleague, we offer a course on vector-borne diseases, which is given every other year. So it won't be given, it would be for the second year when you are here.
Great. Thank you so much. Linda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Nicolai. Welcome to Open House, and congratulations to everybody on their acceptance into our program. I've been on the faculty in this department for about almost 20 years now. My research interest most broadly and most longstanding is in sexually transmitted infections. I'm a population-based scientist. I work in the field, so to speak, in clinics with people. I don't work at a bench laboratory setting. My current focus of research is really on human papillomavirus and the vaccine we now have for HPV, and uptake and impact of the vaccines with a focus on health disparities. As Saurabh mentioned, I'm also the director of the Connecticut Emerging Infections Program at Yale. This is a partnership with the State Department of Public Health and funded by CDC. We've been an EIP site for over 25 years, so a very long-standing effort in public health surveillance and applied epidemiologic research. We have programs focused on influenza, foodborne disease, healthcare-associated infections, a lot of vaccine studies related to HPV vaccine and tick-borne diseases. And in the past 12 months, we have been heavily involved in COVID response activities. So there's much more I could say, but I don't want to take more time. Please check out our website. The one other thing I'll say about the EIP is that we have a lot of opportunities for students for employment, for internships, and for thesis projects. The course I teach is the Principles of Epidemiology course. It's the required class for all first-year students. So those of you who come and enroll at Yale, and I hope you all do, will have me for the core epidemiology class in your first semester. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Linda. Anne, you're next.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So my name's Anne Wiley. I'm an associate research scientist in the department. My primary research interest is actually studying the presence of the upper respiratory tract commensal Streptococcus pneumoniae. I've been looking at this in healthy individuals to help us better understand how that relates to disease and how it can help us to inform vaccination strategies. So my research in that has demonstrated that saliva is the most sensitive sample type to study its presence in adults and elderly. But since March, I have been involved with the Impact Biorepository with many of the other YSPH and YSM faculty. And also in that, we found that saliva was a sensitive sample type for SARS-CoV-2 detection. So that has led to the development of Saliva Direct, which I have now been working very hard on rolling out around the country, also with a great team in YSPH. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. Albert.
Hi, everyone, and as well as what Linda and Kaveh and Saurabh had said, I extend congratulations. We're really looking forward for you to come here, Yale, this fall, and certainly the fall will be much different from what the past year is. We just got an announcement from our president that we're looking to reopen and re-densify all of our classrooms. So it'll be a much better environment than what we've passed through the last year. So I'm a professor in the department. I'm the chair of the epidemiology of microbial diseases, but have for the last year stepped down with Saurabh being the acting chair and pretty much involved with the state's COVID response. Actually, before COVID, much of my work, all of my work was actually outside the United States. I work on urban slum health problems and emerging infections associated with rapid urbanization, issues of social equity, and such as chikungunya, Zika, dengue, many of these mosquito-borne infections, as well as other urban slum health problems such as violence, asthma, food insecurity, and vaccine preventable diseases. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Albert. Melinda.
Hey, thanks. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Melinda Pettigrew. I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. So I have an administrative role at the school. I'm also obviously a professor in the department. My research focuses on antibiotic resistance and the relationship between antibiotics and the microbiome. So I have a number of research projects. I collaborate with folks at the Emerging Infections Program on the hospital-acquired infections group. We look at relationships between the microbiome and risk of recurrence for C. difficile. And I do other projects with the Antibiotic Resistance Leadership Group, which is a large network of scientists across the United States looking at ways to optimize antibiotic use to fight the challenge of antibiotic resistance. In terms of teaching, I teach the core intro class, it's not a core, it's a required class for our department, Principles of Infectious Diseases. And so this will be the first class in the department that you all would take if you were going to come here. And Amy Bay teaches the second half of Principles of Infectious Diseases. And I would look forward to meeting all of you if you decide to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Laura?
Hi, so my name is Laura Bothell. I'm an associate research scientist. I'm new to the department this year. I'm a historian and an ethicist of public health and medicine, and I'm teaching in the fall a course that all of you will be taking as an introduction to the ethics of public health. I'm also creating a new class that's a full semester course on applied public health ethics. So there's a lot of exciting ethical questions that we need to be exploring now related to COVID, infectious disease, and the globalization of public health. So I would definitely be welcoming you to join me in that class. I'm also creating a new course on the history of public health, which will provide students with a foundation and a background of how the field of public health has taken shape over time, and sort of a foundation of what our predecessors have done, and to give us a grounding of our identity as public health practitioners. I'm doing research toward a book on the history and ethics of randomized controlled trials. Right now I have a project with students helping me toward a report for the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine on diversity of participants in clinical trials across government agencies. And so we're looking at age and race and gender in participation diversity of research subjects. I have students working with me on that, and I definitely would be interested in inviting students to work with me on a book project that would suit your budding research interests. I'm available for thesis advising for students who are interested in ethics of public health and history of public health. And like everyone else, I'm looking forward to meeting you all.
Thank you, Laura. Peter.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Peter Krause. I'm a senior research scientist here at Yale School of Public Health. I was an intern and resident here many years ago and rejoined Yale about 12 years ago. My research interests are in tick-borne disease, and most of you, I think, have heard of Lyme disease. I do some research in that, but my major focus is a disease called babesiosis, which is an intraerythrocytic organism that is actually found worldwide. I've had students work each year that I've been here in my lab, and any of you are interested, send me an email and we can certainly discuss potential research collaboration.
Thank you so much, Peter. Amy?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Amy Bay. I'm an assistant professor in the department. I joined in the summer of 2018. And my work is primarily on malaria. So I study many different aspects of malaria, from the human host to the Plasmodium parasite to the Anopheles vector. And the majority of my work is, besides here in the lab at Yale, is also in the field in Senegal, where I lived and worked for many years prior to coming here to New Haven, and where I continue to work. So in Senegal, we work with two really dynamic teams, one being at Hôpital Aristide Le Dantec and University Cheikh Anta Diop, and there the research focus is primarily looking at surveillance strategies and how do we implement and integrate kind of genomic surveillance and serological surveillance into public health decision making. And then the team that I work with at the Institut Pasteur in Dakar is really looking at how genetic diversity of the parasite influences vaccine design and vaccine efficacy for malaria. So those are the research areas that I work on. And I teach, as Melinda mentioned, I teach Principles of Infectious Diseases Part 2. So I look forward to having all of you in class in your spring semester of your first year. And so I'm very lucky in that both of us get to meet all of you, because you are required to take our course, but we really enjoy having you. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Amy. Greg?
Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Gonzalez. I'm an assistant professor in the department, been here since 2017. And most of my work is around drugs and bugs. So substance use and opioids, and infectious complications like HIV, HCV, hepatitis C, endocarditis, skin soft tissue infections, and interested in the spatial and temporal dynamics of all these sort of interacting syndemics of drug use. But also interested in how we can use existing data, mostly observational data sets or administrative data sets, and tools of causal inference to figure out what interventions might work best for ameliorating the effects of substance use, whether it's opioid use itself through opioid agonist therapy, or the infectious sequelae through needle exchange and other sorts of public health interventions. I teach a course called Political Epidemiology, which is basically social epidemiology meets causal inference, and it's looking at the ways in which social and economic policies affect downstream health outcomes, and using tools of causal inference to ascribe a causal effect to them and estimate treatment effects beyond sort of casual association that you might get with sort of straight up regression analyses. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. Ginny?
Hi, I'm Ginny Pitzer. I'm an associate professor in the department, and I've been here since 2012. My research focuses primarily on mathematical modeling of infectious diseases, primarily focused on vaccine preventable diseases, and in particular, typhoid fever, rotavirus, and some work on RSV now. And obviously with the COVID pandemic, have been doing a little work on COVID as well. In terms of my research, it's entirely computational based, but I collaborate quite a bit with folks in the field in a variety of research sites in Malawi, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Ghana on various projects. Whereas most of the RSV based research to date is mostly US based. And in terms of teaching, I teach a course on quantitative methods for infectious disease epidemiology, which is really a more sort of advanced statistics for infectious diseases. So it introduces a number of statistical methods that are kind of unique to the analysis of infectious disease data, where the assumption of independent outcomes, which underlies a lot of the methods you learn in kind of your intro stats classes, don't necessarily apply. And I'm also a faculty member in the public health modeling unit, which I believe I'll talk a little bit more about a bit later.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Ted.
Hi, I also want to just add my voice of congratulations and welcome. We hope to have you with us in the fall. I'm a professor in the department. My research focus has been on largely tuberculosis, and particularly interested in questions related to things that make TB more difficult to control, in particular emergence of drug-resistant TB and HIV-TB co-infection. My group does sort of a mix of both field work and mathematical modeling, and we are active in the US as well as several international sites. We have collaborations ongoing in Peru, Brazil, Malawi, South Africa, Moldova, and China right now. And students have been involved in our projects throughout. So we've had, multiple master's level students as well as doctoral students come through our group, and would welcome people who are interested in the topics and methods that we're using. I teach a course on transmission dynamic modeling for the department, and I'll talk a little bit about the MPH curriculum, and my course can serve as one of your required EMD courses, but you have lots of options of ways of satisfying requirements. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, but looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Ted. Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert Heimer, a professor in the department. Been there for quite a while now. My work, actually, I could just say ditto to what Greg said. My work is at the intersection of substance use disorders and infectious diseases, mostly focusing now on hepatitis C, opiate overdoses, and evaluating programs that seek to ameliorate these problems as best as possible with limited resources. Because I'm a professor in the investigator track, I don't teach, but I'm happy to work with students and have done so, repeatedly over the years. And we have projects that are ongoing locally in Connecticut, some at the national level, and overseas work that I've done recently includes work in the Middle East and Lebanon, and in countries of the former Soviet Union.
Thank you, Robert. Brian.
Hello, my name is Brian Weiss. I'm a research scientist in the department. I work with Dr. Aksoy, and she described very well what we do. On top of what Dr. Aksoy described, I also just like to point out that these tsetse flies also have these symbiotic bacteria, and that we work with the tsetse flies and the symbionts to kind of learn how the symbionts are involved in the fly's physiology. And we kind of use this as a model system to, develop hypotheses for more sophisticated systems like humans, for example, which rely on their symbionts. Excuse me. And then, like Dr. Aksoy said, I also am involved in teaching the vector biology course, which takes place every other year in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Rob Hecht.
Thank you, Kaveh. Hello, everybody. I'm sure you're not going to remember all our names and faces, but I'll pile on here for a minute. My name is Robert Hecht. I'm a clinical professor in the department. Please come to Yale. YSPH is fantastic. Our department is fabulous. And you also benefit from the larger university and all that it has to offer in a complementary way to what you learn at YSPH. I say that because I have a joint appointment at the School of Public Health and also at the Jackson Institute for Global Affairs. So I see two sides of the university or more. And I have the privilege of teaching both at the YSPH and at Jackson. I teach a course mostly for second year MPH students on policy and financing and decision-making, the use of data in decision-making in global health. I also teach undergraduates at Yale College, seniors who are global health scholars, and I have launched with some co-instructors from YSPH and from Jackson a course on pandemic and COVID preparedness and policy that we're offering right now at the universities. So please come and join the classes. My research relates to the economics and financing of infectious diseases and of health systems in general. And I have projects going right now in multiple parts of the world, including places like Zimbabwe and Kenya and Angola and Africa, also in Mongolia and in East Asia and some other countries. And I do quite a bit of work in Latin America and the Caribbean, including in places like Peru and Paraguay, where we're active right now, and in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, and in the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. So you're welcome, you'd be very welcome to join those projects. I work on cost effectiveness of interventions in nutrition and child health. We have a study right now of randomized controlled trials in DR Congo and in Niger and West Africa. So lots of things to do. I need lots of help, and I love to work with MPH students. So please come and join us. Thank you, Kaveh.
Thank you, Rob. I'm not seeing any other faculty I missed. No. So let me also just briefly introduce myself. So my interest in research interest has been on HIV/AIDS for a long time, but I've also developed an interest in the ethics of research. And finally, in the last couple of years, I've been interested in health issues in humanitarian crises. I've been working in China for a long time, also in Lebanon, and in the small Himalayan country of Bhutan. I've been teaching a course on public health ethics that my colleague Laura is going to be teaching next fall, and also been teaching a course on global health. Next year, I'm planning to teach a new course on health issues in humanitarian crises, looking at how humanitarian crises, whether it's man-made or natural disasters, impact the health of the populations. So we were going to talk a little bit more about the curriculum, the modeling concentration, but I'm wondering if anybody wants to ask any question now. You're welcome to do that, or we can keep going with the faculty. And by the way, I'm not able to see anybody. If you could turn on your cameras, that would be terrific, so we can see you. I'm only seeing a handful of the students. Wonderful, thank you. Do you want to ask any questions now, or do you want us to tell you a little bit more about our curriculum, concentration, etc.? All right, I'm not seeing any hands. Yes. Does somebody have a question? Not yet. Okay. So Ted, maybe just a very brief overview of the curriculum. Obviously, they can look at the course requirements and so on the website, but just maybe a little bit of an overview of our curriculum. That would be great.
Sure. And you know, as Kaveh said, all of this information is available online. So you know, I don't want to dive into a lot of details which you can have access to yourself, but also that will be repeated for those of you who choose to matriculate to Yale. So just to give you some, I'm going to give you you know, a broad overview of what the MPH curriculum contains for EMD students. So there's a core curriculum. So you need 20 credits to graduate, and there's sort of 3 buckets of courses that you can consider sort of filling your academic appetites with. The first is a group of courses that's common across all departments. So all MPH students will be taking 7 credits together. And these include courses like the course that Linda teaches on basic epidemiological principles. There's also introductory biostatistics courses, as well as courses in social justice and health equity, and some newly created courses in major health threats and ethics. So Laura talked a little bit about the ethics course that's common across all departments. Then there's an additional 7 credits that you'll need that are specific to our department. There's some flexibility within that, but these include the PID series of courses, so our Principles of Infectious Disease courses, which really serves as the backbone for the EMD curriculum. Those courses are led by Melinda and Amy, who talked a little bit about that. Then there's some other sort of upper level courses in biostatistics. So there's a particular biostatistics course that you can take, or other analytic methods courses that are offered at the school, as well as an upper level epidemiology course that you can take, or you can take the course that I teach on transmission dynamic modeling. So that's one place in which you'll begin to sort of make some choices about the things that you're particularly interested in. But this leaves an additional 6 credits that you can take across the school and university. Of course, you'll work with your advisor. Everyone will be sort of paired up with an individual faculty advisor to help you determine which courses are going to be most relevant, both to your degree here, as well as thinking ahead towards what sort of professional career development you're thinking about next. But this is really, I think, an exciting feature of the Yale University, and one which, I hope you're already aware of, that there's a single academic calendar across the entire university, and this makes it really easy for students to take courses outside the School of Public Health. So we have had many students taking courses at the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, the Forestry School, the School of Management, and in many other places, depending on student interest. So even though it's a short program and there are a number of requirements, this gives you the ability to really tailor your education towards your interests, and is really, I think, a special opportunity. So that is really the high-level overview of our curriculum. I'm happy to answer questions. Melinda, who is also, we're lucky to have in our department, is sort of a major voice in helping shape the entire curriculum across the School of Public Health. So she can serve as a resource for answering additional questions.
Thank you so much, Ted. Ginny, maybe you can give a quick overview of the modeling concentration.
Yeah, sure. And so the public health modeling concentration has been around for 3 or 4 years now, I believe. And I think it's one of the somewhat unique offerings within the Yale School of Public Health. It's a very interdepartmental effort, and is meant to be attracting students from a variety of different departments all across the school. In terms of our faculty, we're primarily drawn from faculty in EMD, biostatistics, and health policy, but we also, I think, have some faculty affiliates from the other departments included as well. The curriculum is really focused on learning and applying a systems-based thinking approach to understanding infectious diseases. And this differs quite a bit from your kind of traditional biostatistical learning, and that is really kind of trying to build up from our understanding of the underlying processes involved, for example, in infectious disease transmission, to understand patterns observed at the population level and potentially predict spread of infection or impact of interventions or things like that, as well as a focus on evaluation methods. And so in terms of the core curriculum, There are 2 required courses for all of the students who choose to enroll in the elective, and those are Ted's course on transmission dynamic modeling. And so you can kind of check 2 boxes with 1 class by taking his class. It'll satisfy both your EMD requirement as well as the requirement if you choose to enroll in the public health modeling concentration. And then the other required class is taught by David Paltiel over in the, sorry, my dog is asking to go out. 1 second. So David Paltiel in health policy teaches a course on cost effectiveness analysis, essentially, which David is an excellent teacher and very entertaining. So a lot of students enjoy taking that course. And then in terms of the other requirements, you need to attend the seminars, which occur every semester, once a month. So it's only 4 seminars a semester, 8 seminars a year, where we bring in outside speakers talking about their work in modeling in public health. And then complete 1 intermediate level course, and you have the choice of 3 different courses for that. One is my course, which is on, as I mentioned, quantitative methods for infectious disease epidemiology. So this is sort of a follow-on from Ted's course, going into more in-depth look at some of the statistical methods for analyzing infectious disease data. The other options are a course taught by Reza Yasubi in health policy on advanced topics in health, modeling healthcare decisions. And then a course in biostatistics taught by Forrest Crawford on stochastic models and inference for the biomedical and social sciences. And then finally, there's 1 elective course that's also required, which, as Ted mentioned, we have a pretty extensive list of electives also for the modeling concentration, which includes a lot of courses offered in schools other than the School of Public Health. And so there's a variety of offerings there. For example, in the School of Environmental Sciences and the statistics department over in the main campus and other things. And these are mainly based on courses that our students have taken that they've found really helpful. And so, yeah, so if you have any questions about the modeling concentration, I'd be more than happy to answer those. I guess the one last thing is that in terms of modeling concentration, it's not something that you have to apply for until the spring of your first year. And so you can definitely, can come in, check it out, attend our seminars, take Ted's class in the spring, as well as maybe some other classes, usually not till the spring in terms of when you have the chance to do that, and then decide whether you want to enroll in that.
If I could just jump in for a second, we did a session on Friday with David Paltiel on the public health modeling concentration. For those of you that weren't able to attend, it has been recorded, as are all these sessions, and I think is up on the website now, but that may give you some additional detail about the program, but thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We also have a global health concentration that is, again, across the school. It's not an EMD specific thing. Mary, have they had a session about global health concentration, or is that?
There will be all the concentrations and tracks are having individual sessions, yes.
Wonderful. And there's information about the global health concentration on our website as well.
Right. And the schedule is on the website for upcoming events.
All right. Luke, I see you have your hands up.
Yeah, hi, thank you. It's nice to meet everyone. So on the EMD website here, I see list of diseases of focus. It's like, my question is, do we have to choose a disease of focus while in the program, based off of all what the faculty members have just said? Do we have to choose, or is it kind of like a broad course in EMD?
Good question.
I mean, I can jump in and answer that. So Principles of Infectious Diseases is will give you a broad background in all the major diseases. We cover sexually transmitted diseases, hospital-acquired infections, zoonotic diseases, vaccine-preventable diseases. So that's really the year-long course that'll give you exposure to not every single disease, but all the major groups and categories. The stuff on the website, I think, is helpful for research, and if you want to dive deeper into a specific topic area. We have a number of electives that, where you can go deep as well, but you certainly don't have to pick one single disease,
Okay.
especially not at this point.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Greg, you want to just briefly mention about academic advising? Ted already mentioned it briefly.
Sure. So, I was a student here, and one of the great things about Yale School of Public Health is its size and the openness and availability of the faculty. You'll get superb mentoring here that I think is harder to achieve at places that have larger student bodies and are trying to deal with a larger program. You will be assigned an advisor when you come in from a member of the faculty, and we try to do it based on the initial interest you expressed in your essays that you applied for the program. The other piece of very specialized advising you'll get is for your second year thesis, and you'll have a primary and a secondary advisor. And this, Luke, is where you might be specializing in malaria, and you might be paired with Amy and Sunil, for instance, or leptospirosis with Albert, for instance. And so you'll have an academic advisor who's going to sort of help you navigate the 2 years at Yale, and then you'll have a thesis advisor who helps you sort of dig in deep into the topic of interest that you're going to write your thesis on. And then you also have internships between your first and second year, and they've been sort of varied in what people do. We have something called the Downs Fellowship, which you probably have heard about, which has allowed many of our students to go study abroad to look at neglected tropical diseases like trypanosomiasis and other sorts of diseases, but also to do work in the United States on local issues right here in Connecticut. And so I think what I'd stress to you as you're trying to choose between MPH programs is that you're going to get a lot of specialized attention here from faculty who are going to help you along in your career here. And I think for a lot of people who've come through this program have been able to find advisors who help them not just navigate the 2 years here at Yale, but how their careers are going to go forward once they leave here, whether it's in research, in clinical medicine, for instance, or in direct frontline public health.
Thank you, Greg. Any other questions? I saw some conversation in the chat box that those of you who have an interest in faculty research, you can reach out to the faculty at any time you want. Some of you have already done that. Rebecca? By the way, if you don't mind, introduce yourself too. Just tell us where you are from.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. I'm Rebecca. I'm from Connecticut. I actually went to Yale as an undergrad, coming back after 5 years. I'm really interested in impacts of climate change on health, and I'm wondering if any of you are involved in the Center for Climate Change and Health, and what types of research you're doing in that area.
I'm thinking of Ginny, if you don't mind, Ginny.
Yeah, sure, I can jump in. So I am involved with the Center for Climate Change and Health, mostly interested in both methodological aspects of how we actually estimate and identify effects of climate on infectious diseases in particular, and how we kind of tease apart, for example, seasonality of infectious disease from the climate drivers that also vary seasonally, to determine what are the main sort of climatic factors that may vary this, and how does sort of change in those factors projected with climate change translate into change in infectious diseases. In terms of my kind of research focus, that's primarily been around impacts on diarrheal diseases and typhoid fever, and the associations that you might expect to see with the climate factors there. Although I've also done some stuff on respiratory virus transmission and climate drivers with that. So it's certainly an area of focus of faculty members in EMD, as well as kind of broader focus across the university. And certainly all of the other faculty here who, in terms of vector-borne disease, I think there's also potential overlap.
There's a number of other faculty who are affiliated with the Climate Change and Health Center. I see Laura, I think you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm actually very excited as a new faculty member. Just this week, I'm joining as an affiliated faculty member on the Climate Change Center. And a part of this is that my new ethics course is going to be dealing with some really important issues related to climate change and health. And so that will be an elective for students who are interested in the concentration in climate change. My history course is also potentially going to be an elective in that area, and talk about the broad history of environmental health activism and infrastructure development, and how that can inspire us moving forward to address some of the major global health threats associated with climate change. I'm also interested in developing new projects. I'm starting some work on the ethics related to climate refugees as populations are displaced by natural disasters associated with climate change, drought, hurricanes, excessive heat. What are the responsibilities of high carbon producing areas to individuals who are now displaced from their homes in oftentimes low carbon producing areas, but are facing the consequences of the lifestyle decisions of high carbon producing areas. So that's a project and an area of research that I'm definitely interested in getting students involved with as well.
Thank you, Laura. Hannah, you want to introduce yourself and then ask a question?
Hi, I'm Hannah. I recently graduated from the University of Florida. My question was about the Connecticut Emerging Infections Program. I was really interested in getting involved with it, so I was just wondering how and when we could get involved.
Sure, I can take that. So as noted in the chat box, you are all more than welcome to reach out to any faculty member at any point in time with your interests. So for the EIP, you could send an email to me, or if you go onto the website, you can get the email address for Jim Meek, james.meek@yale.edu. He's the associate director. The best so as I mentioned, our projects are all related to, the methodologic approach for all of our projects is public health surveillance and applied epidemiologic research. But we do that for, 5 or 6 different project areas. So for flu, for COVID, for HPV, for hospital associated infections, tick-borne disease, and I always forget one, foodborne disease, I think is the other one. So you can also get the name of the project coordinators off the website, and you're welcome to email them as well. So for example, if you're interested in foodborne disease, you could email Tamara Reisman. Her email address will be on the website. And we're happy to hear from you all at any point in time. Most of the positions would start in the fall. I don't think we typically have positions for incoming students that start in the summer, but the earlier you get on our radar, the better. So feel free to email Jim or myself if you have a general interest, or any of the coordinators if you have a specific interest at this time. And we do almost every project has at least one student working with us at any given time. Our biggest project for students is foodborne illnesses. We have 4 to 5 students that work on that at any given point in time. So there are definitely opportunities. So do reach out.
Good, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Anybody noticing in the chat box I'm not seeing? I'm curious, what was about EMD that interested you? What were some of the research areas that was of interest to you guys?
I guess I'm very science minded. So I was also looking at the chronic disease epidemiology, but for me in particular, and with a pre-health background, I was more intrigued by, infectious diseases and other I don't know, a climate change in health. So I saw that concentration. And I was also reading through some of the faculty members and their research, and that really appealed to me. And I feel like I can definitely, for me, this program, I was able to combine all of my interests as opposed to I don't know, the other programs. So that's definitely why I applied, and thankfully I'm here now. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Is it Ariel?
Yeah, hi. My name is Ariel. I am originally from Westchester, New York, but I currently live and work in Boston. And I was just curious how, like over the past year with COVID, how things have sort of changed organizationally or like overall within the EMD department, and if it's sort of like triggered any sort of long-term changes in how you guys go about doing research or working or studying.
Well, maybe I can just start by saying that personally, summer usually is when I'm not teaching, so I tend to do a lot of my travel for my work during the summer. But last summer, obviously, there was no travel. And I ended up, and sometimes when students would reach out to me, for working over the summer, I'll say, well, I'll be traveling a lot, so I may not have much time. But this past summer, because I was not going anywhere, I ended up working with many more students that I've ever worked with. And we worked obviously remotely. So actually the number of projects that the students and I worked on this past summer was multiple times previous summers. So it was kind of a trade-off, I guess. I don't know if other faculty, in terms of how COVID has impacted your research and especially how you've interacted with students, maybe you can talk about that.
I can just add one thing in response to your question. I don't know that organizationally we're any different, but I feel like our department is very different from how it was last year, and definitely for the better. I think that COVID, for me anyway, COVID helped to form a lot of new collaborations with people both in the department. So for example, Nate Grubaugh, who's not here today, he's a faculty member in our department, who I never collaborated with, never would have collaborated with, but now we're collaborating on a COVID project. But also across the university, and to echo the point that Rob Hecht made earlier, I've said this a number of times and I'll say it again, you know, I have met more people, I've been at Yale for 20 years, and I've met more people at this university in the past 12 months than the entire 19 years before because of COVID. So I feel like COVID has really brought many of us together. I know people all over the university that I didn't know before. I know people within the department better that I hadn't worked with before. And I think that benefits our students because you know, if you came to me and said you were interested in something 12 months ago, I may not have been able to help you find the right people to work with. But I feel like Yale is a much more, I mean, we were always collaborative, not to say that we weren't before, but COVID has really, and I think it's very specific to our department in many ways because so many of us are working on COVID. It's really connected us to so many other parts of the university. I don't know, Albert is another person I think of who, Albert can talk about the partnerships that he's formed with the State Department of Public Health and the local health departments. So we're much more connected now to state and local health departments as well because of COVID. So I just feel like we're a much more connected place than we were a year ago.
That's true. Albert, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, I think what Linda says really kind of highlights about what's special about the department. So, you know, as many of you know, we're the only infectious disease epidemiology department in the nation. And that's for historical reasons that infectious disease and chronic disease, you know, have separated. But actually, it's also provided the opportunity to really look at out of the box ways of approaching public health and in general, but also infectious, you know, disease and kind of addressing the burden, whether local or global, of the infectious diseases. I think a good example is the modeling, you know, concentration. There are very few programs where, you know, there's a cohesive, not only a cohesive curriculum and discipline and critical mass of modelers, but also spanning across different disciplines, biostatistics, health policy management, as well as epidemiology. And much of it is housed, you know, in this department. So I think the key issues that, you know, Linda raised, which were kind of emphasized during the epidemic or the pandemic, was really we've gotten to practice the multidisciplinary, you know, mission that's part of the department. And then the second is the connection, you know, which is you know, really so much important. You know, the how COVID brought us to very practical problems, whether it's for the city of New Haven, where they keep their daycare. Amy has been working with the daycare centers. Amy works in Senegal and on malaria, but was brought in to work on daycare centers, for New Haven, or keeping the schools open and so forth. So I think what you'll see coming out of this is not just Yale. This is going to be all schools of public health. There is going to be a paradigm shift in how we teach and how we practice public health. But I think we have a pretty good leg up here, and because of the way that our department is configured, that it's essentially was multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary before COVID. And we've gotten a lot of different ways of training students in their theses. Many of the students, our MPH students, have been involved right in front lines in the COVID, the state's COVID response, the city's COVID response, the emerging infections program that Linda said. So I think the only difference now is, I think, and this will be a change, is that a lot of this was done by Zoom and offline, but now all the plans are laid in. So in fall, that we're going to be coming back to, may not be completely normal, but we'll have in classes and that kind of that wholesome academic environment. And that's the other special part of Yale. So I just, there's a long way of just re-emphasizing what Linda had already told you.
Thank you, Albert. We're getting close to the end of our hour. Is any last minute question? Zili, Drew?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Zili. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I graduated from McGill University. So I really appreciate the flexibility of the curriculum at YSPH. And I'm wondering if it's feasible for someone from END to pursue 2 different concentrations. So I'm interested in the US Health Justice and Regulatory Affairs tracks. Is it possible to do both?
So you can't do 2 concentrations. So if you wanted to do, for example, social justice and climate change, that probably wouldn't be possible. Regulatory affairs is a track. So you'd have to sit with your advisor. It's theoretically possible. The issue becomes, can you fit all the classes in a 2-year time period? And so as long as you can do that, there should be no problem with completing a concentration in the regulatory affairs track. But you have to sit down with your academic advisor and map that out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other last minute questions? All right. Well, I want to thank all my colleagues for attending the session today. Hopefully all of you students got a chance to get a sense of our faculty, the work that we do. And we really hope that you select us and come here, and we hope to see you in fall. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.